Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I record this in BC anyway, it's Pink Shirt Day, which is to stand up to bullying, particularly in schools, and to show that these kids who are being bullied are not alone and that being a bully is wrong. So, in honor of that, we're going to do a little bit of self-love, a little bit of heart opening today. Um, it's maybe a tenuous connection, but I'm going to roll with it. So today what we're going to work on in particular is camel pose. And I'm going to warm up the body and get you ready for it so that when we try camel pose, maybe you'll feel a little bit more open, a little bit more ready for that. So let's start lying down. Because, who doesn't love starting lying down? Particularly, you know, for me, when I record these classes, usually it's first thing in the morning, so I like getting back down on the floor, back down into a sleepy position. You might have your legs extended, or you could have your knees bent. Just finding a comfortable position for your body right now on your back. And you might need to get some little wiggles out. And then for a few breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. 2 more. And continue breathing however you need to. It could be in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing. Maybe it feels really open and spacious, in which case acknowledge that, and for whatever it's worth. Maybe you notice some sticky or choppy spots along the way, in which case you might gently try to lengthen through those parts of the breath to smooth it out a little bit more. You might notice qualities like deep or shallow, moist or dry, warm or cool. You might not notice anything like that. And that is fine too. A few more breaths here. Just allowing your body and your mind and your breath to settle. Last couple moments here. And then start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Whatever way feels best for you to wake up. You might be yawning, you might take a little wiggle of the fingertips or toes, or a rock of your head from side to side. You might take a big overhead morning stretch until you feel ready to draw your knees in toward your chest and take a little rock from side to side. You can massage out the base of your spine and your pelvis. You could draw circles here with your thigh bones and your hip sockets. Maybe the legs go the same direction as each other. Maybe they go in opposite directions. just starting to loosen up a little bit more. You might even extend your legs up to the sky. Knees could be straight or bent, doesn't really matter. You could point and flex through the ankles and toes. You might reach your arms up as well and draw circles with the hands. Last couple of breaths, just moving however you need to move. And then bring your knees back to your chest and then plant your feet to the floor. So the knees are bent and the feet end up about hip width apart-ish and close enough into your bum that you can tickle your heels with your fingertips. And that will essentially end up stacking your ankles underneath your knees when we start to lift up into bridge pose. And it becomes a really strong position. Okay, so nice and strong through the feet, toes spread wide. You might take a little loop of the shoulder blades onto the back so the chest opens a little bit more. Your arms could be extended by your side, palms to the floor, or maybe you choose to bend your elbows and take robot arms. And then thinking of driving through your heels, especially on your inhale, start to lift your pelvis and your spine up and away. And as you exhale, slowly come back down. So we're just going to move in and out of bridge for a few breaths. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. Now, as we're lifting up, I want you to really think of squeezing your bum. And it's not necessarily something that we always say to do in bridge, although the glutes are the main muscle group working here to lift the hips as well as the hamstrings. But in particular, really think of the glutes. Okay, the next time you come back down, pause there, take a little break. You could be in stillness, or you might wiggle a little bit from side to side. Okay, if you've moved your feet, make sure you bring them back, hip width apart and parallel. And then on your inhale, start to lift up into your bridge pose. From here, maybe you choose to walk onto the outside edge of the shoulders. You could clasp your hands behind the back if you wish. Maybe you keep them in robot arms, but really squeeze the bum. So the hips are going to lift a little bit higher. Now, blueprint this position because essentially we're in camel pose right now already, but you're on your feet and on your upper back instead of on your shins and knees. So last couple breaths here. Squeeze the bum. And then slowly lower back down to the floor. A couple breaths at the bottom just to pause because it's a pretty deep back bend. We don't think of bridge as being that, but it is, right? It's a big heart opener, big back bend. And then hug your knees into your chest, get a little counter pose. Maybe you stay here, maybe you really interlace your hands over top of the shins. Maybe you curl your nose toward your knees. And then last option would be to press your shins up to the sky, getting even more flexion through the spine. And then come back down to the floor, shake everything out. You might grab the backs of your thighs and start to rock and roll up and down your spine here. You know, I always like playing with the shoulder blades to sit bones. If it would feel better for you to roll to one side and press yourself up, then go ahead and do that. And then we'll meet in cat and cow, or hands and knees, and then move into cat and cow. So hands outer shoulder width apart or wider, knees under hips, toes tucked or untucked. Inhale, lift the tailbone, dip the belly into cow. Exhale, tuck the tailbone around into cat. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. Really getting a release through the abs in cow. And then a release through the spine or the back in cat. As always, if there's any other little natural movement that you'd like to take, feel free to go where you need to go. Particularly if you never move here, aside from in cat and cow, just, add some little wiggles on and see how it feels. My back feels a little bit tight today, so I'm going to send my hips back toward my heels in cat. Opening up on the low back. Maybe the sides of your body feel a little bit tight, so you could do this, wag of the tail from side to side. Last couple breaths. Just going where you need to go. Okay, and then come back to center, reset. I want you to feel a little draw of your belly button to spine. And then plant your hands. I know I kneeled up, so that can be a bit confusing. Tuck your toes this time. Fingers spread nice and wide, so really active through your forearms. Lift your knees up a couple inches. So sometimes this is called beast position, but I want you to keep cat and cow here. So lift the tailbone and then round through the spine. So the movement is going to be quite a bit smaller than it was. And a couple more breaths here. Just waking up the core. And then exhale, lift the hips all the way up and back into your downward facing dog. Feel free to move here too. Maybe you pedal your heels toward the floor and bending one knee and then the other. Maybe you choose to wag your tail from side to side. You can play with coming up onto fingertips on one hand or the other, or maybe both. And then bend your knees, look forward. On your exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of your mat, standing forward fold. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands if you want here. Maybe you sway a little bit from side to side. If you want a little bit more support today, you could rest your elbows on your knees or your thighs. You could always bring the floor up to you with blocks or a coffee table, so long as you're not going to clonk your head on it. A couple more breaths wherever you need to be. And then release your hands. If they are bound, take a look at your feet. I want you to spread your toes wide, right, as wide as you can. Hug the legs toward each other just a little bit without the knees caving in. And then with your fingertips to your shins or to the floor, inhale, lift up partway, belly button to spine. Exhale, let it all go. Couple more of those. Really active, especially through the legs. And the upper body almost floats. And then charge your legs. And then slowly start to roll up to standing one vertebra at a time. As slow as you need to go. And if you can wiggle a little bit side to side, and go ahead. Till eventually you come all the way up to standing. Couple little loops of the shoulders up, back, and down. Once you're there, little wiggle or shake out the legs, shake out the feet. Whew, standing. Yay. Okay, feet hip width apart. Again, lift all 10 toes. Flare them wide. So you should be feeling here like a lift in the arch of the foot. And this is sometimes called Pada Bandha, which is like an energetic lock or lift in the feet. Right, so the shins, the calves are working quite a lot here. Bring your pinky toes down, keep the other toes lifted. Okay, now can you bring your big toes down, keep the middle 3 toes lifted? Right, we're here working really hard. It's super peculiar. Some people practice yoga like this. I think my fingers start to do weird things when I do this. Okay, and now try and keep that lift in the arch of the foot. Bring your other toes down. It's not going to be as active. Hug the legs toward each other. Belly button to spine on your inhale. Sit into your chair pose. So hips down and back. Tailbone down to the earth slightly till you feel your belly button engaged toward your spine. Loop your shoulders onto your back. Maybe you bring your arms to cactus. So a few breaths here. Make sure the knees aren't caving in. Send them out to the baby toe edge of the feet. You'll feel the glutes fire up as you do this. Couple more breaths here. All right, really firing up those glutes. And then inhale, come all the way up to standing. Shake it out a little bit. Okay, second set. Come back into your chair pose. This time hands can be wherever. Okay, feel that lift of your belly button to spine. And then send your weight all the way over to your right leg. Keep chair pose on that right leg. Come up onto the toes on the left foot. Maybe take a couple taps up and down with that left leg, and then extend it forward, and then pick it back up to center. You can always tap down in the middle, out to the left, and up, and then back, and up. Keep chair pose on that right leg, out to the left, and up. Watch this. Curtsy to the right, and up. Back to center, pause in the middle. That right leg's gonna wanna send you over. Now go all the way over to the left. All right. Find chair pose on that left side. Couple taps up and down with that right foot to find your balance. And then extend the right leg forward. Pick it up. And out to the right. And center. And then back. And center. Out to the right again. And center. Curtsy to the left. And up. Back to the middle. Really find center here. Last couple breaths. Maybe you snuggle down a little bit deeper. And then inhale. Come all the way up. Shake it out. Awesome work, I assume. Okay. I'm just going to turn to the side for you. Feet hip width apart. Hug the legs toward each other. Now here, squeeze your butt like crazy. Okay, you don't want your legs to lock out. So a little buoyancy on those knees. In fact, if the knees are bent, your glutes are going to be working a little bit harder to extend at the hip. Bring your hands to your sacrum. Toes, fingers pointing down. Wrap your elbows toward each other, your shoulder blades toward each other. This might already be enough for you of extension through the spine, in which case, awesome. If you would like a little bit more, then start to press your hips forward. You can even use your hands. Really loop the shoulder blades toward each other. Really squeeze the butt like crazy. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you think of lifting the heart a little bit more. Some of you I know will glide down the back a little bit deeper. Legs super strong. Squeeze the butt. And then inhale. Come all the way up. Exhale. Release into your forward fold. Right. Pose. Counter pose. Little sway. And then fingertips to shins. Inhale. Little partway lift. Exhale. Let it all go. 2 more. And then charge your legs. Inhale, come all the way up to standing again. And exhale, hands to prayer. Shake it out a little bit, a little wiggle. And then send your weight over to your right leg again. Just gently pick up that left knee. You can tap down. If your balance is just feeling really shaky today, you can keep the toe on the floor. Or maybe you pick up the leg and start to draw circles or figure eights. It's sort of less about what that left leg is doing and more about keeping stable on the right leg. So a little micro bend in the knee or even a deeper bend. I'm playing with that stabilization. And then step it down. Let's switch to the opposite side. A little buoyancy on that supporting knee. Maybe you pick up the right leg, maybe you keep it on the floor. The movements can be really small, right? They don't have to be wild and crazy. If you really want to go for it, then go for it. And again, but it's less about what this right leg is doing and more about concentrating on stabilizing on that left leg. Okay, step it down, shake it out. Couple breaths, either hands on your heart or by your side, whatever feels better. Eyes closed if you can. Let the heart rate settle. Let the breath settle. Thank your body for balancing for you, even if it was only for a split second at a time. Flick your eyelids open. Okay, coming back to the top edge of your mat. Inhale, sweep up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth, forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees. Bring your fingertips or your palms to the floor and then step your knees back to hands and knees. A little wiggle or shake here. A little cat and cow. Okay, we're going to go into our camel pose now. this is a really great place, depending on how hard your floor is, to kneel up on a cushion, or you can do what I'm doing and kind of just fold up your mat so you have a little bit more cushioning underneath your knees, because we're going to be here for 2 sets of camel. And then try to tuck your toes behind you. Try to get all 10 toes tucked if you can, but depending on how pointy your foot is, it might mean the heels wing out to the side if you're trying to get the baby toes tucked. So just tuck as many toes as you can while keeping the heels kind of in neutral with the rest of your lower leg. Okay, here we go. Hug the legs toward each other. Squeeze your bum like crazy. Belly button to spine. Shoulder blades on your back. Maybe you bring your hands to your heart and just lift here. If you'd like a little bit more support, bring your hands to the low back. It's the same thing as we did standing, but now we're just on the knees. If you'd like to lift a little bit more, press the hips forward. Almost wrap your shoulder blades toward each other, creating a little platform to lift the heart up. Maybe the hands are in prayer. And if you're going to go back further, think first of lifting up to go back. So imagine there's like a barbed wire fence behind you and you're trying to not get pricked. Some of you might stay here. Some of you maybe can go so far back that you can find your heels. Keep squeezing the bum. Last breath here. Very controlled, and slowly come back up and then come down into your child's pose. Whew, maybe you take your knees wide and then bow forward. You can always stack your forehead or on your hands. Allow the breath to settle. Sometimes camel can be a bit of an emotional thing, and without realizing it, you might come forward and feel a little bit of a wave of emotions, and that's totally normal. And then slowly come back up to hands and knees. I don't want to go on about those emotions, but when we do heart openers, right, it's not just physically opening through the heart, but energetically, sometimes it feels like, we're opening into the emotional side of the heart as well. And that's why I always try to do a forward fold after, so that you can protect it, wrap back around, right? Especially if you're feeling some sort of emotional release. If you don't experience that, no problem, right? You're still great at yoga, okay? All right, second set. Come back up. Tuck your toes. Now, if you're someone who's always wondered, I feel like I would love to be able to get my heels in camel pose, but it's not something that you've ever figured out how to do, or you don't know how to drop back, there's another way that you can come into camel. So, sitting up nice and strong, hug the legs toward each other, squeeze the bum, belly button to spine. I want you to think of keeping from your knees to your shoulders like a plank of wood. Super strong. And then you just lean back on a long line, right? Hinging back until all of a sudden, oh, hey, there are my heels. Bring your hands to your heels and then squeeze the bum, press the hips forward, right? It's quite deep, so only go as far as you need to go. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the bum. Maybe you're here with your hands in prayer. Maybe you've got your hands on the low back. Maybe you're in so-called full camel. Last couple breaths. Okay, inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, hips back. Rest into your child's pose. Couple breaths here. And from child's pose, all you have to do is slither forward onto your belly. So maybe, depending on where you are on your mat, it might be more or less graceful feeling. Once you're on your belly, a little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall. Feel your belly button engage toward your spine. Loop your shoulder blades onto your back, and then start to reach your tailbone back. Inhale, lift the heart up. Okay, so your hands could hover. They might be palms up or palms down, whatever feels better on your back. Some of you might interlace your hands behind your back. Keep the back of the neck long. Unless you have to look at me, look down rather than forward. Some of you might stay here. Some of you might reach your legs so far back that they de-weight as well. Hug everything toward the center line. Last option, maybe you kick your heels toward your bum. Grab the outside of the ankles or feet for bow pose. Here we are in camel once again, but on our bellies. Hug the legs toward each other. Squeeze the bum so you don't crank into the low back. And then kick your feet into your hands to lift the thighs up. Pull back on the feet with the hands to lift the chest up. Last couple breaths. And then slowly, gently release all the way down to the floor. You might bring one cheek to the earth. And deep belly breaths to release through your lower back. And then from here, roll over to your back. Oh, that was a lot of heart opening. Hug your knees into your chest. Take a little rock from side to side. Really massage out the base of your spine. Right? Because sometimes, even despite our best intentions, we still generate a little bit of tension in the low back when we go into camel or bow. Let's go into a twist. Take your right arm out to the side. Maybe shift your hips right a little bit to start with. And then exhale, legs to the left. These could be stacked. You could take a single leg twist or cross your legs and go wherever you need to go today. Particularly in the cross leg or single leg twist, super normal for a knee or a shoulder blade or both to be up in the air. So you can always prop underneath your knees, or don't even worry about it. Right, eventually maybe one or the other or both will start to drift towards the floor. Last couple breaths here. Inhale slowly. Return to center. Reset your pelvis, your spine. And then take your left arm out to the side. Exhale, lower the knees to the right. So a few breaths here. Allow the breath to slow down, which in turn will lower the heart rate, setting up the body for its final rest. Last couple breaths here. And then on your inhale, come back to center. Reset your pelvis and spine. If there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, happy baby maybe, or some sort of spinal flexion or extension, feel free to go where you need to go. Otherwise, start to find your pose of rest. You could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side or in child's pose or in a seated meditation. It might feel really good to drag your mat to the wall and do legs up the wall, wherever you are. And once you've found your pose of rest, for a few breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh. your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your face or your jaw. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And take a moment to thank yourself for coming to the mat today, for giving yourself this time to move and to breathe, and for your wonderful body for moving and breathing for you. And the more that we practice being accepting of ourselves, the more accepting we will be of other people. And that's the whole spirit of Pink Shirt Day. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.